What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Sharpen the Public. As always, I'm your host, Deej, back again on our preview episode here for Week 9. Crazy how fast we've gone through already half the season, but I'm back with Andy. Andy, you've had a couple bad weeks here, but I think it's time for you to get back on track, just to push you out on blast, just to start the episode.
Hello, DJ. Good to talk to you, too. Yeah, man, it's been tough. I was up and doing really, really well, where I kind of may have touted it a little too hard, where I had 4 straight weeks of being in the green of 2 units or more, or maybe it was 3 units or more, I can't remember, and I think it was 2. And now I am down 12.7 units over the last 2 weeks.
Not ideal.
With 2 wins.
You're due.
That's 2
is
wins.
What that means. You're due. You're due.
That's 2 wins. Still 38-33-2 on the season here as we near the halfway mark. Down 3.14. Not repeating, of course, that is 3.140.
Not pie. Thanks.
Yeah, not pie. It's just it's a massacre. It's a bloodbath. It's not pie.
That's okay.
But
that's okay.
In the most shocking turn of events ever, I kind of like the slate this week. I kind of like it.
Oh, here we go.
I kind of like
it. Personally, I'm scared of it. I thought I liked the last week, and it killed me. I mean, I ended up going 5-7 thanks to a nice 2-0 Monday night, but 3-7 going out of Sunday was not exciting. I loved the Niners. I wish I had more time to see that Trent Williams was out. I was very surprised to see the Bengals go in and win there. And then it felt like a lot of the ball didn't bounce my way. But that's what happens in sports betting. You gotta take the punches, right? So I'm a little nervous for this slate, but it's good to hear that you're excited about it. What do you think your favorite games here is? I'm excited to get to your Colts game, but I'm curious to hear what you think.
I think it might be the Colts.
Oh,
truthfully,
okay.
To be honest with you, and we're gonna talk about that when we get there, because I know that you're not feeling the love that I'm feeling for my boys. I'm also gonna be there. This will for how long I've been a Colts fan, how long I followed them. This will actually be the first time that I've ever seen them live, which is really cool.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I've had tickets to see them live three different times, and all 3 times I have gotten the flu. That's not a joke.
That's crazy.
I have 2 more days to stay healthy as we record this Thursday night.
Okay,
and
you'll be all right.
I just had COVID 2 weeks ago, so I can't get the flu. That's how science works.
Exactly. Yeah, you'll be fine. That's exactly how it works. Biology is on your side going into this weekend. All right. I'm excited to get into this episode, though. I think the most recent episode of Sharpen the Public, where I talked about where we stand through Week 8 in 2023 trend-wise versus last year in 2022, was a really good episode. I think everyone should listen to it if you hadn't had the chance. But I'm going to run through a little bit of these trends here before we get into the games, as we usually do, because that's what we're here to talk about. We're here to follow these public betting trends and make sense of them. Andy, did you got a chance to listen to the episode, right? So this should be news to you, right?
And just to brag on my partner here, I thought that was one of your best ones. I feel like he really gave a solid review of what we've kind of gone through with this data so far this season. I think it's important to, maybe not every single episode, but I think you've done a good job of that, but like kind of doing a halfway point check-in like you did, where we're comparing and contrasting against last season, as well as like what we can take away now that we have a considerable sample size here at the halfway mark and what to expect. I think too, like going off of what to expect, we should expect some of these shit teams, like 1 or 2 maybe, to have a run. We always see that. And then there's going to be 1 or 2 teams that you really like that are solid so far this year that are going to collapse. It's just how it goes with the NFL. So if you've got any bold predictions, be sure to tweet them at us at AndyHH Sports and at Deej Sports. Who you think is going to be a big riser or a big faller as we hit this second half of the NFL regular season?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a really good point. And with that, I'm going to preface all of this with the general trends for 2023, and then I'll kind of relate to what happened in 2022, and we can talk about that before we get into it. I know I deep dove it on the previous episode, but just want to get that out before we talk about the public betting numbers for Week 9. So through this year, through Week 8, the public is 63-53, 10 games over 500, a 54% win percentage, while in 2022, they were 10 games under 500, 55-66 at a 45% win percentage. So you're seeing a massive difference in how the public's betting this year. And I don't know if it's because of the influx of betting or if it's just the way the things are falling over history to get the public back to probably around 500, assuming that they were below 500 coming into this year. It's just crazy to see a massive difference like that. And in the coming portions of this year, week 9, week 10, and so forth and so on, I think they're going to fall back to 500. I thought that was going to happen last week, but it didn't, and they had a good week, and I had a bad week. So it's really tough to mitigate, but interesting to see nonetheless.
Yeah, I also found that to be really interesting that there can be that big of a discrepancy from year to year for something that we feel is a bit more consistent like the public, but the public continues to surprise us this year. And I think you drove it home tenfold that we are putting a stop to the narrative, and we need to shout from the rooftops that you should not just blindly fade the public.
Hence the episode, hence the podcast. I don't know if you caught this on the recap episode, but I think it'd be really funny to put a line graph of the trend. Like the public did 54%, like stocks, like they went 54% one week, 58% the next week, and then dropped to 36. I think it'd be really interesting to see. So look out for that on happyhoursports.net. I'm definitely going to try and put that together. I think it'd be really funny.
I think you could definitely do that.
Cool. Moving into the money. Money is 61 and 55, and then I'll say the sharp as well. Sharp is 58 and 58. That's a 53% win percentage for the money, and then 50% win percentage, obviously, for the sharps at even. 2022, money went 53%, and sharp went 50% through halfway through the year. And it feels like they've been underperforming, and they feel like they've been underperforming because they finished so far above those numbers. They've both finished at 55% in 2022. So that's why I feel that they've been worse, and we can expect a positive regression, seeing that last year they did bad, and now we can hopefully, expect that the people that with the more money are betting more confidently now, as they've seen 8 games of data through all of these teams, right? So I think that one makes sense, where we can anticipate positive regression from both the money and sharp differential ATS-wise.
Totally agree. Yeah, I totally agree. And that was the big takeaway for me too, is just knowing that they are about to blow up here based on past precedents, I think is super important as we start to look into these lines for week 9 and beyond.
Yeah, and I'm hopefully expecting a positive regression from our sharp differential trends like the Golden Rule and Geico trend, because you look at 17 and 31 and 20 and 30, and that's nowhere near where we were last year, finishing upwards of 74 and 49 and 78 and 43 ATS. So it's a little way off, but maybe we can get a big turnaround.
Geico trend is dead, dude. It's all about the sharp unders. I'm investing.
The sharp unders are hitting heavy, and I'll get to those in a second. As we move to totals now, through 8 weeks in 2023, the public is 27 and 41 betting overs, 28 and 20 betting unders. That's a 40% win percentage and a 58% win percentage. Looking into 2022, we saw the public on overs hit at 38%, so right around 40, and then the 52% on unders. So they're overperforming on unders, a little underperforming on unders, but nothing, or overs, and nothing to be had there. The big takeaway, I think, from that, and I talked about this last episode, is through this point in the season, we saw massive differences between the amounts of public successes on the overs and public successes on the unders, and then the rest of the season, it kind of tailored off. When we see the public on the over, we can't always say, hey, this is going to go under now. I think Vegas has responded with such low totals now, and you're going to see a lot more overs through the rest of the year. And just to past precedent, we saw that. I think it was like 20 games over 500 for the public, or 20 games under 500 for the public betting on the overs last season through 8 weeks, and then it only finished like 27 games under 500. So 20 games in the first half of the season versus 7, massive difference there. So just keep that in mind as we talk about all this data coming in the next couple of weeks.
Yep, I'm with you.
Perfect. And then I don't think I need to talk about this through the rest of the season, or from last season, but money percentage on the under, 41 and 31, sharp differential on the under, 56 and 36, money percentage on the over, 18 and 28, and sharp differential on the over, 12 and 13 through this part in the year. The only one that really stands out, and I'll let Andy react to this, is the sharp differential on the under is 56 and 36 through this point in the season. It was basically that exact same number through that part in the season last year too. It was 50 and 29, 21 games above 500, and 20 games above 500. So it's just insane how well that hits. And it finished at 107.77 last year. So something that you can still expect to be positive by the end of the year.
Yes, absolutely. That's one that I am looking for and enjoy, as well as that special range you were talking about, the sharp differential from 5% to 20% on the under. I think is even more unique with bets. A bit tighter of a window that you have to hit there, but we found last year, once you can find those unique windows, that's why we track them. It's extremely profitable. What was the record on that 5% to 20% sharp on the under again?
That's a very good point. It's 33 and 13 between that range. And then across other ranges, you see 21 and 21 above 20% sharp differential, and then 2 and 2 below 5%. So like, it's weird that it happens this way, but that's why we thought it was interesting to start tracking numbers like this, because you see those numbers online and you're like, what does this mean? Like, there's no context behind it. Now you can say, whether you believe it or not, that when it falls into this 5 to 19% sharp differential range, and again, sharp differential is the difference between the money on a bet and the public tickets on a bet, right? So the money's 85, the tickets are 63. Take 85 minus 63, it's 22% sharp differential towards whatever bet. And there's the context. It's 33 and 13 when it falls into that range. And we're working on ways to incorporate the number of bets into games and specific teams. And there's so many ways we can look at this data, but this is just the raw information that we talk about before we get into the games. You can check out happyhoursports.net for all the fun little tidbits as well. But that's it. That's all of the information that we have before we get into these games. A lot of fun stuff to talk about, especially with so much data, like Andy said, large sample size of information. And it's a really nuanced and niche way to look at public betting data, but I think it's one of the most interesting things out there, especially since no one else is doing it. So
yeah, absolutely. I think that I just am fired up that we're now at the point where we can start to draw takeaways. It's tough to do that at the beginning of the season. It's very easy to overreact, and I feel like we did a good job of not overreacting, not naming really any trends, but I think we got to start looking at naming some of these, because the names we gave last year are having a really, really bad 2023, similar to how bad my last 2 weeks have been.
Well, we'll look to turn that around. Hopefully we can look to turn the name ones around, and maybe at some point we can have people tweet us and give us some cool names, because that's always a fun part, and definitely we love to engage with the community. So whether you're listening on YouTube or Spotify, check us out on Twitter or our website. We've got plenty of content and love to talk to you guys. That's awesome. But yeah, so I had a not so great week. I said that, but we're still doing fine on the year. I'm excited to get into this week 9 slate, despite it being a little bit ugly. So we're going to start with the game in Frankfurt. Dolphins +2 at Chiefs. I say at Chiefs, even though they play in Kansas or in Frankfurt, not in Kansas City. This is a tough one, Andy. I want to lean Chiefs. I think there's a lot of reasons to back the Chiefs, especially because one thing that I found this during research is the Chiefs with Mahomes and Andy Reid have not lost back-to-back games since 2019. They lost against the Browns or the Broncos last week in Denver. This is what scares me is this is Tyreek Hill's first game against the Chiefs since he's left. So he's going to have a vendetta. You've got the number 1 team in yards, which is the Dolphins, like yards per attempt, versus the number 2 defense in yards per attempts. And recently, the Dolphins have not performed well, clearly, against the top teams like the Bills and Eagles. So this is why I lean Chiefs -2 or -2.5, whatever you see. The Chiefs come into this with 80% of the bets and 93% of the money, which also scares me. But we also talked about, hey, this is like the way it's going. You don't necessarily have to be scared of these type of numbers for the public. However, there's only 41,000 bets and it's Thursday. So lots to discuss here. It feels like one that we might just have to pass on, although it's 9:30 and at prime time and everyone wants to bet it. So I love the Chiefs. I'll lean the Chiefs. I shouldn't say I love them. I think it's a tough spot to back the Dolphins, given their defense not being great and the Chiefs defense being one of the best we've seen from a Chiefs team in a while.
I feel the opposite. I like the Dolphins in this spot. The Dolphins got into Germany on Monday, and the Chiefs either get in today or they're going to get in tomorrow. I think that's a huge difference. We saw that be a huge difference in the London games, where Jacksonville had their extended stay in front of both games, especially in the second game against the Bills. And it was a huge advantage because the Bills got in super late into London and did not look the same. I get the whole back-to-back games piece, but also the Chiefs did not go up against the number 1. It's not very often the Chiefs go up against the number 1, or I'll call them the number 1 offense in the NFL. the number one offense in the NFL, off of a loss. I think I'm not putting a ton of weight into the Tyreek Hill revenge thing. I think it's a funny storyline, though.
Yeah,
but
it is.
The stays in there where they're able to acclimate and stuff, as well as the Dolphins have really looked ahead to this game. And I think that they are in a nice spot here where I cannot believe that everyone and their mother, so it's like 80% of the bets, 93% of the money with 41,000 bets, is on the Chiefs. Yet the spread moved when I wrote my article on Monday. The spread was 2.5, and the spread is moving in favor of the Dolphins. So I'm going to go ahead and lock in.
Wow.
At plus money, Dolphins money line. Plus 115, I think is the best I can find. I'm just doing that for a unit. I get the whole, like, Chiefs haven't lost back-to-back. So those Dolphins have looked shaky against good teams, right? The really good teams is where the Dolphins have struggled this year. I do think that the Dolphins are starting to get guys back on defense. They've got Jalen Ramsey now. They've got a couple other guys back as well. Their defense has started to look better, which is really good news for them because that's been such a weak spot. In fact, after their week 1 victory, Mike McDaniel even said in the after the game, he was like, we just need you guys to get one stop for us in the game. And it's like, bro, what? Like, you need a couple more than that when you're going up against a real team. That was against the Chargers. I mean, Jesus. But, yeah, Dolphins money line for me, plus 115. That's what I'm rocking with.
What I need you to look at, though, is public is 71% of the bets on the over, and there's 85% of the money on the under. There are projected to be 17 to 18 to 19 mile an hour winds at kickoff here. So I love the under. The total started at 52.5. It's dropped to 51 and now 50. So I adore the under. I'm not going to take it right now just because I don't think I've looked at it enough. But I think this is just like one of those, wake up, want to see points type of game. And Chiefs have a way better defense than people anticipate. You saw the Eagles defense hold the Dolphins to an under despite a lot of controversy. So I think there's a good spot for the under.
Like, is the Chiefs defense really that good? I don't know.
Number 2 in yards allowed per attempt in the air, which is huge in the NFL.
They just looked like absolute dog shit against the Denver Broncos.
Windy and cold divisional game. You can't. I think people are
windy and cold Frankfurt game.
Mahomes was injured or sick or whatever. I think what you forgot to mention about this Dolphins-Chiefs game is Travis is going to get another 3 or 4 days with Taylor Swift before he goes out to Europe. So he's going to have a little more time to get, he'll be fine.
I've been to Frankfurt. It's a beautiful city. I love it there, but I don't think it's a Taylor Swift city. No offense to my friends in Frankfurt. I just don't find her traveling out with the team unless he really needs somebody to cuddle up with that entire plane ride there 2 days before the game while the Miami Dolphins are there practicing all week long in Germany. They're used to it. They're going to be ready. There's a lot of fields outside of the city they can go practice on. So give me the Dolphins here. Plus 115 on the money line. I'm excited for this one. I'm glad that we finally get I guess Bills and Jags on paper was a good one, but we didn't think of the Jags that highly back then.
This is definitely the best one.
Really good.
Yeah, this is the best one for sure.
We have sent them our best.
Hopefully the Germans like us. Moving into Rams-Packers. Rams +3 in Lambeau Field. Packers have 57% of the bets with 64% of the money. This is one of the reasons I think this slate is so ugly. This is an ugly game. The Packers should have beaten the Vikings despite Kirk Cousins getting hurt. I didn't get to watch it a lot, but I don't know how the Packers didn't cover that game. The Packers just don't look like a team that can put up points against anyone. Now you get the Rams team with all their injuries, and will Stafford play? I don't know. The Packers should not be favored against anyone, but it's like, how can you back this Rams team with no Matt Stafford? So I think I'd lean Packers just depending on what Stafford's status is. I like the under 91% of the money, or 99% of the money, 91% of the bets. This is an ugly game for me. It might be a no touch, but I lean Packers.
I also lean Packers here. I think it's really crazy that their GM came out this week and said that he can't back Jordan Love as the confirmed starter. He has a lot to prove the second half of the season. I know fantasy football does not determine all, especially in like the real football world, right? But he is the 13th ranked quarterback in fantasy this year, which is pretty wild to think about. Considering the lack of offensive weapons that he has, he's still able to make it happen with a wide receiver room that has nobody that is older than a second-year wideout. Insanity. Right. So
it's insane.
I think that he's made do with what he's got, and he needs to get some more experience under his belt. I feel like I'm kind of similar to how I led the two Anon train. I feel like I'm leading the Jordan Love Anon train here. So I also lean Packers, and I think that the Rams defense has looked shaky. I think that, to your point too, we're gonna have to wait and see on Stafford. He's probably not gonna play, like, realistically.
Yeah,
I
don't think so. And if he doesn't play, the only reason this Rams team is good is because of Stafford, and without Stafford, I don't think they can put anything together. Despite McVay being that guy, right? He's 19-15-2 as an underdog, but I don't know what that is with. I mean, half that was Jared Goff and Stafford, right? So it's just a really tough spot for LA to come into Green Bay when, I don't know, I'm not in Green Bay media, but I'm sure the fans are fucking pissed. They're going to come out and be loud and will this team to a win, because they have not looked good at all. And, with Kirk down, the Lions are obviously probably going to win the division, but maybe they think they still have a chance. So it would take a lot for me to back the Rams without Stafford.
Yeah, I might take Packers
right now.
I can't believe I'm about to go. Yeah, because do you think this line's already accounting for Stafford being out? That's what I don't know.
Yes, I don't think you can get the Packers favored. I don't think you can get the Packers favored otherwise, at all.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, actually, that's fair. I'll sit, but I really heavily lean Packers here. I mean, but oh my God, everyone's just slamming the under already.
Why wouldn't you? Like, both Jordan Loves can't put up points, and then you got Stetson Bennett throwing. I mean, Puka and Cooper Kupp can get theirs, but you need a quarterback that can get it to them.
Bennett looked all right in preseason, I thought. I know it's preseason, but still, I thought Stetson Bennett
probably knows what he's doing.
All right. Yeah, he had some of the best options in the world at Georgia and all the support. So he's getting two of the best wide receiver options he can if he ends up playing. It could be interesting. Yeah, with that being said, I'll stay away as well. I'll stay away.
The issue, though, we're beating a dead horse here, but the issue then is their offensive line is not great. They've never been good in the trenches this year, and then if you give Stetson Bennett, a young rookie quarterback, no time, it's like you put him in hell, and you give him no chances to get the ball out. But then again, Cooper Kupp and Puka are very fast out of their breaks, so it's like a really tough game and a really ugly one. I don't love it. I don't love either side, and I'm probably just gonna stay away.
Yeah, Darrell Henderson props could be interesting too. That'll be one I'm gonna look at.
Darrell Henderson. Okay, moving to the next one. I see Commanders plus 3.5 in Foxborough. Patriots at 57% of the bets, while the Commanders at 54% of the money, giving them an 11% sharp differential, which is interesting that the public likes the Pats here. I like the Pats too. However,
what?
Yeah, I know. It's disgusting. Believe me. I like the Pats too. And it's because the Commanders are, I don't know why. I'm very surprised the public is not like Commanders here, because they just come off a great game against the Eagles. Commanders, for some reason, only look good against the Eagles. And Sam Howell figures out how to get the ball out quickly. The Eagles' defense, for whatever, cannot get to him, even though their defensive line looks amazing. The enemy figures out this Eagles defense. And I think people are going to overreact to that, and we're going to see a lot of bets come in on the Commanders as the week progresses. I think this is one of those really ugly lines, like asking why the Patriots favored, why at all, or should we bet the books want you to take the Commanders here, especially at plus 3.5. And I wouldn't say I love the Patriots, but I heavily lean them. And this is interesting, Andy. Totals moved up. 75% of the bets on the under, 55% of the money on the over. And maybe I like that. Maybe I like that too. So, the other point is Belichick against a young quarterback, which is always good to see. So I like the Pats. It sounds like you like the Commanders, though.
Yeah, I think this Pats defense is bad and banged up. I think that Sam Howell is starting to improve too. He's getting, I believe, over 2 passing touchdowns a game, or averaging that at least for the last few weeks now. And I think too, I know the Commanders sold hard on their defense, but Mac Jones can't figure out any defense in the NFL, much less one that is at full strength with the Commanders. I know that Montez Sweat and Chase Young are huge factors for that, and not having them there is going to be a major loss. I just don't think that they're selling that hard to where they're going to lose to the Patriots. I mean, who's to say the Patriots aren't going to start trying to purposely lose to get their quarterback of the future? I don't think it happens as much in the NFL as it does in the NBA, but this is an interesting one because either one of these teams, I think, could be, whoever loses here is going to be trying to go for a good draft pick. I don't think that the Commanders are too attached to Howell, even though he has looked improved the last few weeks. So I lean Commanders, but to your point, I'm not going to lock anything in just yet.
No, it's a good
I wish
point
I got
to
3.5. 3.5, I would probably lock that in.
It's a good point to bring up Chase Young and Montez Sweat because those are huge losses for the Commanders defense. I think that's probably why you see a lot of the tickets on the Pats is all that news and saying, hey, their defense is gone now. That's why we're going to back the Patriots. One thing I do want to say is obviously we're recording on Thursday. This is not how the data will look on Sunday, but there's an 11% sharp differential towards the Commanders. And I've talked about it on the recap episodes that we see an 18-6 ATS record between 10 and 14% sharp differentials. And I expect that to continue to regress towards 500, towards what we saw happen in 2022, which is 26-19, 7 games above 500. And it's 18-6. It's 12 games above 500. I think it's going to regress. So if things stay in those ranges, 10 to 14% sharp differentials, like it did last week, it went 1 and 2 ATS. Another number I'm going to fade. And yes, it's fading a sharp differential, which seems like not intuitive, but that's what the numbers show. We just this is how it works. So I'll be curious to see where the numbers lie on Sunday. But if things are looking like they're in the Patriots' favor, I might take them, despite it being a very, very ugly bet.
Yeah, I hope I don't have to watch any of that game.
Yeah,
I will. But
again,
I
I might have to take the over. So we'll see. Another game that this slate is so ugly, but it's another game that I kind of like.
No, this one's so juicy. This game is so juicy, dude.
In Houston getting 54% of the bets and 72% of the money. Total set at 40. I don't know if I said it, but Bucks +3. I'll let you start on this one, Andy.
The reason I think this one's so interesting is I think either team that wins this could be a candidate, like I said at the beginning of the pod, to be one that kind of makes a run this second half of the season. Not that this game is going to indicate that they're going to make a run, but they're positioning themselves to do so. The Bucks have the Saints and Falcons above them in the division, both at 4-4. So it's very, very, very achievable for the Bucks to, as you predicted before the season started, to make a run and positionally lock into that 6 or 7 spot in the NFC playoffs. Because there's 2 spots that are ready to be taken in the NFC playoff picture. I think that there's 5 teams that are locked in, but we're still missing 2 that could really be anybody's. And that's why you saw the Vikings go out and trade for Josh Dobbs instead of trying to mail it in. They have an awesome chance for that spot. And when you're in that position, you don't mail it in and start tanking. You should. And I'm glad that they're doing that. It would be a bad precedent if as soon as the quarterback goes down, they give up when they had an asset that they could trade to go get Josh Dobbs, and they're going to keep trying. Anywho, the Texans, this just feels like such a nice little bounce back spot for them after getting embarrassed in Carolina. I know that the Bucs defense is better in a lot of areas than Carolina's defense in some ways. I really, really like the Texans here. I don't mind the Bucs either, but I think this Texans team plays hard. I think the defense has steadily improved too. I know that they ended up losing to the Panthers, but they still contain a Panthers offense that had 2 weeks to prep for them to, 15 points. I think that this is an awesome spot for them. So I lean Texans. I'm not going to rip just yet, but the nice part is, if you're listening and it's still staying the same, there's some books where you can get Bucks at +3. There's some books you can get Texans at -2.5. So with a lot of discrepancy in the market, depending on which way you like, you could still get a half-point edge depending on how you like it.
This is another game where we're going to be on opposite sides. I like the Bucks. I think this is a good spot for them to. I'll say this first. I think
Boy
at this point, yeah, Baker Boy for sure. I think at this point there is too much tape, and I said it last week for the Panthers over the Texans. There's a lot of tape on Stroud now, and he doesn't necessarily have these weapons that are going to break out and do crazy things. So once people figure out once teams figure out the Stroud in this offense, which they are starting to, and he's not looking as good as he did in the first half of the year, then you're gonna find this Texans team more regress to what they should be, like one of the bottom tier teams in the NFL. And it's nothing against CJ Stroud. I think he's great. I just think this is a very tough portion of the year for him to bounce, to continue what he did, and throw however many passes it was without a pick. So I love the Bucs here. I think their defense is stout enough to take on the Texans. The Texans' offensive line is injury prone. It's not looking great. I'm surprised to see. I mean, I understand why the public and Texan and money love the Texans. I just don't get the Bucs hate. I think at the beginning of the year, it was like this as well. I just don't think they're as bad as people think. What's interesting here is 69% of the bets on the over, 84% of the money on the under, giving it a 53% sharp differential. We're seeing some massive sharp differentials towards totals, which is kind of wild. Looks like you have a point.
I do. This is a big thing for me. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers rank 27th in the league in opponent completions per game, allowing 25.1 completions per game to opposing quarterbacks. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers rank 28th in opponent passing yards per game, at allowing 256 passing yards a game. They've allowed 299 in their last three. I just feel like CJ Stroud is a good enough quarterback, even though he's a rookie. And I agree with the tape part, right? They do have the tape, but it's not like the Texans aren't going to be prepping either. I know that's just such a shitty counterpoint to make, but I think that the stats say it all, right? He's going to have some favorable matchups, and we've seen both Tank Dell and Nico Collins turn into really solid receivers for him. He's got Robert Woods there too. Like, really, really like this passing offense for the Texans, and that was why I picked them last week. I'm not going to shy away from that this week. I'm going to stick to my guns here, that they have a really favorable matchup in the air, and I'm actually going to go ahead and lock it in. I'm going to lock in Texans -2.
Wow, that's bold. But I mean, I don't love the Bucs right now. I think I like them. I think this is a great spot for them to get a cover on the road, despite Baker not really being a good road covering team or quarterback. I'll probably end up passing it on Sunday, but we'll see where things end up. I don't love it. I'm surprised that you love Texans that much to place it right now, but I mean, all power to you. You need to turn around.
Yeah, it's my second week in a row going early on them instead of waiting until Sunday. I didn't necessarily go in on them early. I took the over last week with the same logic of that, because I thought that the Panthers would put up some points too, and the Texans defense surprised. I mean, Panthers ultimately won, but they contained the Panthers pretty nicely throughout that game. So I doubted that Texans defense, and they're playing hard. I think that they should give Baker a hard time too, because Baker's play was really solid the first few weeks, and it started to go down since then, in my opinion. But also, it's all about who you play as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think they've had a rough go facing the Lions and some tough teams here. But moving on, we've got Cardinals +8.5 in Cleveland. Another ugly one. 91% of the bets on the Browns, 76% of the money on the Browns.
DJ.
Oh God. Oh Jesus. No Josh Dobbs in Arizona. I think my only point before you can go ahead is I don't know what compels anyone to take the Cardinals in this spot.
I already did. I took it on Monday.
We're off again.
You clearly didn't read my article. Oh my God. Every one of their mothers betting the Browns because they're thinking the same way as you. You're the public right now. You're the public. You know what though? Hey, Public's winning. Public's winning right now. So
doesn't mean that's
bad. Actually a compliment. That's a compliment. I don't give a shit who the quarterback is. The Browns are not as good lately against the run, and the Cardinals are really good rushing the ball this season. I think too that this screams the week 1 matchup of Commanders and Cardinals for me, where everyone was like, "Oh my God, the Cardinals are shit." Like, yeah, give me the Commanders -6 or -7, whatever it was, and it ended up being a close game. Like this total says it too. It's a 37.5 total, and we're gonna dog at 8.5. Like the Browns cannot trot out there with PJ Walker at quarterback again after how shit it's been and some of the poor decision making by Kevin Stefanski. There's for every bad thing you can say about the Cardinals, I think there's ample things that you can say bad against the Browns too. Besides the Browns defense, actually no, I'm going to correct myself. The Browns defense has not been as good the last few weeks too, compared to how hot their start was in the beginning of the season. So
it has not.
To your tape point, maybe that's a tape thing.
It's a get right game for them. It's a get right game for them, for their defense. PJ Walker 7-2 ATS in his NFL career, covering the spread by 10.3 PPG. Andrew,
that's fine.
You're talking bad about PJ Walker, but he's 7-2 ATS.
PJ
Walker teams have never lost a home game that he started, ever.
They should have traded back for PJ Walker. Should have traded back for him. I mean, for Josh Dobbs.
Temple, Philadelphia King, PJ Walker. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, XFL legend or USFL, whatever league he came from.
Yeah.
I love the Cardinals here, man. I wish that I got 8.5. I got 8, so that's a bad CLV. But I had all the CLV in the world last week and got murdered, so it doesn't really matter right now.
It's one of those really ugly ones where, again, part of the reason why I think the slate is so ugly. But Cardinals at Browns screams like, how can the Cardinals score points? And if you take the last two games from the Browns defense out of it, there's no way in hell you would back anything under 10 points for the Cardinals here, especially with a backup quarterback, and not necessarily backup, but I guess it is a backup because Kyler Murray's out. So I don't know.
Plain tune, yeah.
It's just disgusting. I cannot take Cardinals plus 8.5. If I do anything, it's Browns. I might stay away. Like I said, this is a very ugly slate with crazy numbers. Like you're seeing, the public and money are heavy on some sides here. So it's going to be a really interesting week come Sunday. And I'm curious to see how things change. Like if people continue to come in on the Cardinals, if people continue to slam the Browns, it's going to be weird. And do you have any more points, or can I go to this next crazy one?
I just wanted to remember that you said if you take out the last two games for the Browns when we cover the Colts game, because the Colts hung 38 on that Browns defense. So
I know.
Let's just keep that in mind. This great Browns defense of the Colts hung 38 on them. When we
before
the
Colts
game too,
the Browns were having a historic defensive year, and it wasn't like they were playing no one. They were playing the Steelers and the Ravens and these good teams. So.
Sure,
that's all I'm saying.
26 to the Steelers, 28 to the Ravens.
Two of those were defensive touchdowns. Like, let's chill.
All right, yeah, that's fair. I'm telling you, dude, and I said this in my article as well. There's a lot more stats and insight that I gave into this play at happyhoursports.net. Go find my article there. Should be right on the homepage. There's a lot more that's gone into it, but it just really, really gives me the week one vibes of Commanders and Cardinals, where everyone's just like, wow, the Cardinals suck. But the Cardinals and Browns are both at 500 ATS this season. Like, it's not like either of them are covering spreads like mad. They are both at 500. The Cardinals are 4-4. The Browns are 3-3-1. So I'll go with the Cards with a touchdown or more. I think that's an awesome spot for them.
One thing that I will say that is interesting, the Cardinals are the only team this year that have not been bet by the public. Doesn't look like they're going to be this.
Of course not.
Doesn't look like it's going to be this way this year, this game either.
No.
So.
Oh, God, no. Yeah, it's not. Everyone's slamming the Browns.
Yeah, I think it's going to be hard to cover, 8-9 points too if the total's so low. But again, another horrible game, and moving to another horrible game. Bears plus 8.5 in New Orleans. 69% of the bets on the Saints. 69% of the money on the Bears. Like the Saints just went out and scored, however, God knows how many points last week, and now they get to play the Bears defense at home. Everyone loves the Saints, yet the Bears actually look okay with Bajan at quarterback. I don't know, is Fields back? He's not back. Right?
I know Bajan didn't look that amazing last week to me. He let me down against the Chargers defense that was absolute dog shit in the Sunday night game. I'm glad that I unfortunately was not able to watch the game. I had to catch highlights, but it's good because I did not want to hear Chris Collinsworth just ramble about Bajan. Yeah, you would have thought that like Bajan had cured cancer or something the way he probably talked about him. But I think with this game, it was a nice teaser spot for me. I'm just staying away from teasers this week because I'm 0-3 out of the last 3 weeks. I know
it's
you
not
said
like you,
but yeah,
it's not like you.
I'm scared. I'm betting scared when it comes to teasers, but to the board itself, I'm loving it. But to teasers, I'm going to stay away for now, just because, to your point, this Saints, we don't really know what we're going to get with the Saints offense. You're either going to get like well, they're really good days are average for most, but an average day or a shit day. And with that being said, I don't want to go one way or the other on this one.
I like the Bears. I think one of the reasons is because Derek Carr is just so bad at covering spreads. He was a 17-29-2 as a favorite with the Raiders, and now as a Saints favorite, he's 1-5-1 ATS. He hasn't had a year above 500 ATS since 2016. He's a terrible I think he might be the worst in the last like 10 or 15 years quarterbacks to the spread. And you're seeing the public stack on the Saints, and that's because of the Chargers game against the Bears. This Bears team is not bad offensively. And yes, the Saints defense is good. And yes, Dennis Allen is that type of defensive coach. However, there are too many mistakes that the Saints make on offense to win by more than a touchdown here. I think you have the Bears back door open. There's a lot of positive trends looking towards the Bears.
Yeah. Are you going to lock them in right now at 8.5?
Am I going to lock him in at 8.5? Yeah, why not? I'll take it. Give me
All
Bears
right.
plus 8.5.
All right, it's your play. I'm not gonna also lock it in officially, but I will put my money on it as soon as we're done here. I love it.
Yeah, I need to take one, and I don't hate it. It's probably the game I don't hate the least that we talked about so far.
That's a good way to look at the slate. This is the one I hate the least.
I'm telling you, it's so ugly. Bears, Saints, Cardinals, Browns, Bucks, Texans, and the numbers are tough. You don't have like any home dogs, which is something I'd love to back. It's rare. It's a weird week, especially, I mean, we just had 16 games last week, and now what do we have? 13 now, so big differences.
I keep waiting for us to preview the Colts game, and I keep remembering that we're a 4:00 game because that hasn't happened for us this season.
No one wants to watch the AFC South, man.
Hey,
okay.
You got the Jags and the Texans. That's the cream of the crop. And Will Levis.
Yep.
Fuck them all. Go Colts.
Seahawks plus 6 in Baltimore. 56% of the bets on the Ravens. 68% of the money on the Seahawks. This is tough, man. I love the Ravens, and I love them the last 2 weeks. They've kept me even, or relatively close to even, and this is a tough spot to back them with the Seahawks coming in as 6-point dogs. The spread opened at 3, and it's been bet all the way up to 6. Yet the money's still on the Seahawks. It feels weird. Feels very weird to me. The Ravens look like the best team in the NFL, up there with the Eagles right now, with the way that Lamar looks on offense. He looks incredibly efficient. They're running the ball really well. Zay Flowers is looking great. Their defense has taken over, I think, as the number 1 defense in the NFL. So I think this is a really difficult spot for Geno, who has looked really inconsistent of late, to come into Baltimore and cover 6 points or cover a spread. However, I think this is large. I think 6 points is a lot for 2 good teams, 2 good offenses, and Pete Carroll versus Harbaugh. This is like creme de la creme. The Seahawks could come and upset the Ravens here if they're not on their game, right? But they could also get blown out. So you saw, obviously, the Seahawks beat the Lions in a shootout. The Ravens just murdered the Lions. So it's kind of weird where I stand here. I don't know. I probably lean Seahawks plus 6 just because I think 6 is too many.
I kind of like the under. And the reason being, I think both these defenses are really sound at what the other offenses do well, where I think Jamal Adams should be able to lock down, say, Flowers. And I think that for the most part, if Walker's able to get past this D-line that has a couple of issues, but not too many for the Ravens at right and left end, I think that the linebackers will be able to shut them down. So I lean under here, and it's interesting that everyone's betting the over and the total's going down. So I find it to be interesting. So I kind of want to take the under now in case it keeps going down, but I think I might wait and just see what happens.
I know I did talk about how, the public backing the overs is probably going to even out through the rest of the year, but it is 3-14 when the public backs an over above 75 or 70%. And right now the public's on the over 80% in this game. And it finished last year when 70%, 9-20. So 11 games under 500, and you're 4 and what did I say? 4-14. So 10 games under 500 now. Like, it's still not great. So I definitely lean the under, especially with so many bets on the over and it's moving down. It's a good sign. The Ravens defense is great, and the Seahawks defense is going to have to prevent the Ravens from scoring, and they love to run the ball, so it's good under here. However, 6 is so many, despite the Ravens looking so good. So we'll see where these things stand on Sunday, but this is one of the more interesting matchups of the week for sure.
Yeah, I really like these defensive matchups that the Ravens are going to be able to get, as well as I just don't feel a ton of threat from the Ravens running game if your name isn't Lamar Jackson. So Lamar's going to have a huge game if they're going to blow them out as they've done to some teams. I think that's a pretty basic take, but I mean, it is what it is. It's Lamar fucking Jackson. So I lean under here.
It depends on what Geno you get, though. Like, he's looked so inconsistent. It looks like he can be the best quarterback, the MVP, comeback player of the year for 2 drives, and then he disappears for so long. Like, it's like, I don't know which version you're going to get, and they're traveling across the country. You're getting the Ravens at home, and they just need to keep winning. The Ravens are in a spot where they can get the number 1 seed if they want it, and they're gonna keep winning games. And I think this is a really tough spot for the Seahawks. However, 6 feels so much, and you're seeing it move a lot. So this is a weird one. I'm curious to see where things stand on Sunday.
Yeah, me too. I'm definitely not going to rip you now, but that was one I previously wanted to stay away from. But as we continue to talk about it, I really like the under for multiple reasons now, including your trends as well as some of these matchups I'm seeing. Next up, we have the Vikings traveling to Atlanta to take on the Falcons. Falcons are -3.5 or -4, depending on what book you are taking them on. And the total, Deej, opened up at 41.5, but it's now down to 37.5 because 85% of the bets and 87% of the money are on the under. I am interested to see how Taylor Heineke does in his first full start for the Falcons. He took over for Desmond Ridder midway through the game last week. And I'm also interested to see, is Josh Dobbs playing? I think he is.
Yeah, I think he is. I think he
did on short notice for the Cardinals, so why not for the Vikings?
Yeah, I love the Vikings here. I think people are going to overreact, and I'm surprised that only 51% of the bets are on the Falcons here. I'm surprised at that because I thought a lot of people would overreact to Heineke coming in for Ridder. It's not. I think Heineke's better than Ridder because I think Ridder's awful, but it's not like he's the greatest quarterback ever to come in. This is Josh Dobbs has played like a quarterback that at this point in the NFL with where we stand with quarterbacks, like he's probably top 20, and he's better than Heineke. He's looked better. He's taken a bad team to look really good, and I think he's got the weapons now. Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, Alexander Madison. He's got a great offense to work with now as opposed to what he had in Arizona. So the Vikings are built to be a better team than the Falcons, and I don't know if I can say they have the better quarterback because we haven't seen them either work with these teams, but I think this is a good spot for them as 4.5-point dogs. Like, this is not a gift line, but I hate the Falcons right now. I don't think they should be favored by 4 against anyone.
Bro, I've hated them all season. That is not a secret. I'm a fan of fading them in this spot too. I know it's crazy with what's going on with this quarterback carousel, but getting 3.5 or 4 on the Vikings seems really good. And I'm excited to see what this team can do because the other thing I do kind of like the under here. And just because of what's going on with these offenses. And the Falcons defense, it slipped up recently, but it is still better than expected. And I just don't fully believe in this Falcons offense doing a ton of damage against the Vikings defense here, even though the Vikings defense leaves a lot to be desired. I think that's kind of where we're seeing a line is like there is a pretty, even though it's Taylor Heineke, it's a pretty big matchup discrepancy. And to your point, I'd rather just fade the Falcons as well as side with the Vikings team that should be able to take advantage of that defense in some of the spots where it's susceptible.
Yeah, it's going to be this will be interesting to watch to see how these teams react to new quarterbacks for sure. And maybe there's a lot up in the air. And one of the reasons I'm not betting it right now is because there is so much in the up in the air. But if the Falcons can get the ball moving with Bijan like they want to, and not be limited at quarterback, then things can get scary. But even with Ritter at quarterback, there were still a lot of issues fundamentally, and I think the Vikings can take advantage of that, especially with Josh Dobbs at quarterback. So we'll see how these things play out for these two teams. But if I bet it wouldn't be a lot, half a unit or whatever. But we'll see what people think come Sunday. This is going to be a fun one to watch, I think, in this rough slate. We're getting into a slew of a couple good games here, and I'm excited about it. Moving into probably our biggest discrepancy between you and I, Andy. Colts -2.5 in Carolina. You're going. Panthers 67% of the bets and 78% of the money.
Yes, dude, bring it on. Bring it on.
And
keep doubting. DJ.
I like the Panthers. I like the Panthers. I think the Colts offense is great. Your defense is terrible. It's got so many gaps. I think the Panthers are on an upswing. I think you mentioned it last week with the new play calling that they're doing with a lot of movement and more of what Bryce Young is used to. I think he's a lot more comfortable in this Panthers offense, and I think getting 2.5 at home in a place like Carolina is great against this Colts offense with a backup quarterback. Yes, I think Shane Steichen is got you guys to do great things with Gardner. However, I think this is a really tough spot for you guys to come in and beat the Panthers on an upswing.
Shane Steichen has gotten us to do things that nobody else in the league has been able to do. The Colts are the only team in the NFL to score 20 or more points in every single game this season.
Yes, I think that is due to regress. The next closest is I think it's
against
the Vikings.
Panthers?
Against
the Panthers?
Yes,
the Panthers had 2 weeks. So the Panthers had 2 weeks to prep for CJ Stroud, and the defense was able to pull it together. Also, the Panthers are much better against the pass than they are against the run. So they are able to contain CJ Stroud. And that was something I warned when I took the over last week, was I am a little concerned about the matchup that CJ Stroud's going to get, because surprisingly, the Panthers are, even though they're allowing so many yards, a lot of those are on the ground. The Colts are a run-first offense. They're so good. They are so good at running the ball. They're a top 5 offense in so many categories running the ball. And the Panthers are a bottom 5 to bottom 10 team in so many categories against the run. There's just so many paths for the Colts to be able to just run the ball out. And I don't know why the total is this high, because I think the Colts are just going to keep run, and then throw something to Josh Downs, who has been phenomenal this season for the Colts. And honestly, a godsend. I can't believe that he's starting to turn into wide receiver 1 over Pittman. Well, Pittman was never a 1, as I said, but I've been previously quoted saying that many times. When he's Downs is so short, I think he's 5'8" or 5'9", and he's turned into a wide receiver 1 for us, which is hilarious. But he's a stud. I mean, he's a stud. He's a great option for when we need to pivot on offense. And I think that the Panthers, since they're not going to have as much time to prep as they did to get they needed 2 weeks to beat the Texans on a game-winning field goal that they got to try 3 times at the end of the game. It's ridiculous that they had to be given that at the end, and then they won. I'm happy for them. It was awesome in Charlotte. Everyone was fired up, but it's not happening again this week. Why would a team who's arguably the worst in the NFL get 2 wins in a row? Are you shitting me? No way. There's no way.
I know. This is a game where the Colts can easily come out and win, but I think taking the Panthers as a home dog is a great spot. However, the thing that I am going to take right now is the over. 72% of the bets on the under, 77% of the money. The line has moved 2 points towards the over. That's massive. And I think if we stay in that low sharp differential towards the under, we'll see what happens on Sunday, is going to be great for us, because aside from how good the sharp differential has been on the under, it's not great in these low spots. And the Colts defense had been very bad. They've allowed 38, 39, 37. There's just the Colts can easily come out and score 40 against this Panthers defense, yes, on the run, on the ground. However, I don't think they can hold anyone. And the way the Panthers offense has looked recently, or at least last week, they look like they can put together an offense and put together points, especially against a bad defense in the Colts. So I love the over, and I'm going to take it right now.
Official. 43 and a half?
Absolutely.
So I already took Colts -2.5 in my article as an official play, and I listed out a lot of the reasons that I rambled off to you, as well as some others. So be sure to check that out on happyhoursports.net. You've made my jaw drop 3 times on this podcast argument. I feel like I'm like fucking Aiden Ross, just overreacting to everything.
It's an ugly slate, Andy. And
we're going head to head on a lot, and I really like.
I know.
I really like it. I think it's fun.
I know. It is fun. It's good banter. I wish I got to watch more of the games last week. I could have a little bit more, but I've done my fair amount of research. I think I'm in some good spots here. Moving to next slate, I see still in the 4:00 slate. Giants +2 going into Vegas. Vegas without their head coach Josh McDaniels. Praise the Lord. Thank God they finally made a decision. It looks like Devontae Adams is finally happy. This is pure ecstasy for Raiders fans. Raiders coming in as 2-point favorites. 56% of the bets, with 54% of the money on the Giants here. 10% sharp differential towards them. Total opened at 39.5, moved to 37.5. 22% sharp differential towards the under. What do you think, Andy? What do you think?
I really like the Giants. I think the Giants are a candidate for me, as I touched on at the beginning of the episode, to potentially have a strong second half of the season where they seemingly seem to be figuring it out a bit. The defense is looking pretty electric. Kayvon Thibodeau, who I tried to get cute with a couple props last season, if y'all remember, he's looking really good at times for this defense now in his second year. So second or third year, I can't remember. And I don't mind this spot for them on the money line. I'm probably not going to lock it in official, but I think if they can win this one outright, there should be a lot of Giants fans there too. I know that Vegas is a lot better about having fans, especially in their new stadium, compared to the LA teams, but I do think there will be a lot of Giants fans in attendance too, just because it is Vegas and the Giants have such a big fan base. So it's not going to be the biggest home game for the Raiders, paired with the style of play that the style of play is shit. Their offense is horrible, but the recent play, I will say, about the Giants going up against a Raiders team that literally just got a massive facelift. I don't think you can just do a huge facelift and then go in and win the next game, but hey, pretty sure the Colts did it with Jeff Saturday, and that was his only win for the Colts when they did that shit last year. So maybe the Raiders will try to replicate that since they reinstalled a brand new coach, brand new GM, and brand new quarterback all in 1 week.
Are you aware that the Giants had -9 passing yards last week?
I am.
You like them in this spot?
I am.
This is an ugly game, I think, especially with there's so many changes on both sides. They're getting Daniel Jones back, which is good for the Giants. Obviously, with everything that's happened in Vegas, there's so many things question marking that offense and that defense. I think they finally figured out a little bit. They didn't do it in the game a lot, but you saw the Raiders kind of figure out how to use Josh Jacobs, and he had like 60 yards or 40 yards on a drive, and they scored a touchdown with him last week on what was it, Sunday night or Monday night, and it looked like they knew what they were doing, but then they went to throwing the ball, and Garoppolo missed Devontae Adams several times, and they ended up losing the game. This Raiders team is built to win, however, they're not executing at all. I don't know if I wouldn't be able to back the Giants here on the road. I think I'm probably the public again. I know you're getting Daniel Jones back, and I think the Giants defenses look pretty good of late. I just don't know if you're going to unlock the Raiders offense with McDaniels gone. Like, he has been such a bad coach for them. I might just have to stay away because I don't know what's going to happen without him. I love the under. Both of these teams are huge to the under. You're seeing the public on the over for God knows what reason, and then 66% of the money towards the under. So if I do anything, it'll definitely be that under. The Raiders team total under is 8-0 this season. The Giants are 7-1 to the under. A lot of good reasons to back the under here. However, I don't know if I could take the Giants. It just feels very, very ugly.
Yeah, I'm not going to lock them in just yet, but I do lean them. I just think there's too much going on with this team. But who knows? Like I said, the Colts were able to pull it off last season when they put Jeff Saturday in, and he started 1-0 and then lost every single game after that. So we could see a similar thing here because they have a lot more facilities to pull that off than the Colts did.
Right. Staying in the NFC East, but moving to the far better game of the day. Cowboys +3.5 or 3 points in Philadelphia. 65% of the bets on the Eagles, 48% of the money on the Cowboys, giving them a 13% sharp differential towards Dallas. Before I go a little bit biased, Andy, I'll let you speak on this one.
My question for you is, how expensive are tickets for this game? I know you get them once a year, but I just feel like there's a little bit more hype surrounding this one for a 4:30 game than you might typically get.
I was looking at the Eagles prices for the next couple of weeks, and shit tickets are still like $350 for all of these next games. We're going into a we're going into a horrible slate where we play the Cowboys, then we have a bye, and we play the Bills, the Chiefs, the Cowboys again. This is a tough slate of games for us here. So it's big in Philadelphia media right now of how many games can they win and how many do we need to win in order to think that we're fine for the number one seed. So this is definitely not a game the Eagles are overlooking. And I'll just say right now, I think the Cowboys are a little bit of frauds right now. I don't think they have the capacity to hang with where the Eagles stand right now. I'm very worried about Jalen Hurts' leg. And the only thing that does worry me is the little bit of injuries that we're having on the offensive line. Lane Johnson did not look good in the Commanders game, yet now he's going to have to go up against Micah Parsons and Dexter Lawrence. So it's a tough spot, I think, but I don't see a world where the Eagles lose this.
Yeah, to your concern about Jalen, I totally agree. I also feel that the Cowboys are frauds too. And for that, but I do like their defense, and I love y'all's defense as well. That's why I'm surprised that everyone's betting the over. You got 71% of the bets and 73% of the money on the over with 22 or almost 23,000 bets in. I'm going to go ahead and lock in under 47 as an official play because I think that this is going to be a slugfest divisional matchup, as well as some concerns around Hurts' health, some concerns around Dak, not his health, what do I say, Dak's competence, and especially big games, and the nature of the beast here that we do have two pretty damn good defenses going head-to-head in a 4:30 slot. I'll go with the under 47 here. I really like this spot.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I think you're seeing a good money percentage towards or a sharp differential towards the Cowboys here because there's a lot of evidence and trends backing Dak against NFC East teams, especially the Eagles. It feels like every time the Eagles get Dak, we're just in a bad spot. Last year, it was the Gardner Minshew game where we should have ended up covering and winning, but we didn't in Dallas. So there's a lot of circumstances in these NFC East games where Dak has been able to just come out and beat bad Eagles teams, like after the Super Bowl, the decline of Carson Wentz. So I think there's some fake trends like backing Dak against the Eagles and NFC East here. So I think the Eagles are going to come out to play in Philadelphia. I think in this slew of games, that the Eagles play, they're going to go 1-1 against the Cowboys. I don't think they lose at home. I just don't see it, especially in this spot, about to go into their bye. They know this is a very big game. I don't see Nick Sirianni letting these boys lose. However, it might be a one or 2 point game. So the number scares me. I think this is a game where the Cowboys could come out, especially if we can get 3.5. I'm not saying the Eagles are going to cover. I think they win, but I wish it was, 6.5 and I could take it in a teaser, but it's not that. It's not that at all. It'll be one of the fun ones to watch. So we've got at least 2 or 3 games that are going to be good in this Week 9 slate.
Well, and another game to really cap it off on Sunday night is another phenomenal game, the Bills and Bengals. And I hate to see that everyone agrees with me on this one and is siding with the Bengals, but the Bengals are now to -2 or -1.5, depending on where you look. They have 78% of the bets and 72% of the money with 26,000 bets in. This will shift a lot. I mean, this game's going to cross 100,000 bets probably very early on into Sunday, maybe midway through the day. And this is going to get a ton of bets because of the significance of this game. This was the DeMar Hamlin game last year that got canceled. So there's a lot of speculation around this game in general. The total is super high. One of our highest of the week. Started at 46.5, but went up to 49.5 with everyone slamming the over. I mean, holy shit, guys.
This is a primetime under, guys. Primetime total.
Yeah, that's true. Primetime unders here. 83% of the bets, 92% of the money, and everyone's slamming the Bengals money line too, for what it's worth. I don't even care, dude. I like the Bengals. I think the Bills are a little bit fraudulent this year. I think that, and I think that we called that out a little bit towards the beginning of the season too, that there are some lapses for this team. The Bengals, as they always seem to do, what's up with the slow starts for these guys, and now they're starting to fire on all cylinders. I know the Niners were a bit banged up, but the Bengals look really solid. And I think this is going to be a really interesting one. I'm not yet going to lock it in for the sole reason of what's going on here with all the trends that everyone agrees with me and everyone's just slamming the over. Maybe this is a nice under spot for us. Maybe we wait for the under to start with a 5 because it's going to get to that point where it's Thursday now and it's already moved 3 points. So that total might hit a 5, and then I'll be taking the under on that. But what do you see here, Deej?
Yeah, I'm with you. I like the Bengals as well. I think the Bengals are on an upswing. The Bills are on a downturn. Right now, it's the Bengals at home. While I said it last week on the pod, I was like, if I'd be very surprised if the Bengals went in and beat the Niners in Santa Clara, and they did just that. They went in and held them, and Brock Purdy didn't look great. I think this is a great spot for Cincinnati to stay hot and really assert their dominance again after people kind of were like, hey, this team is gone, starting 0-3, right? So I wouldn't say they're back. I think their defense still has a lot of questions to answer, which is why you're seeing so many bets towards the over. However, I think with where their offense stands and how well they're managing games and the inconsistencies of Josh Allen, where it looks like he's God or he looks like Mac Jones, like there's no in between. And that's what Buffalo's been wanting. They've been wanting a little bit of consistency out of Josh Allen, and he's going through the slate where it's like, at this point, I don't know how you can back this Bills team. I don't hate them in a teaser, although the total being very high just kind of throws that away for me. I think the Bengals are a better team than the Bills right now, and that's what matters on Sunday night. There's a lot of history in this game. This is going to be a tough battle. This is a battle for the AFC, supremacy to be behind the Chiefs. So the Bengals need this game, I think, more than the Bills, and that says a lot, especially in today's NFL. The total is insane. Today's NFL saying near 50 is wild to see it continue to go up. Doesn't surprise me. However, the Bengals defense is terrible. The Bills defense is fine, but they're still going to get there.
Bills defense is also not great, man. I'm really not a huge fan of the Bills defense.
Right now, yeah, they've got a lot of injuries, so I don't hate the over. Although, I mean, we've talked about it. Maybe at this point of the season, we should start backing the public back in these heavy overs. But I don't know if I can do it here, especially in a primetime game. So, yeah, I like the Bengals with you.
Under.
Yeah,
heavily
I like
lean under,
Bengals.
heavily lean, and then lean Bengals.
Cool. Moving into Monday nights, we've got Chargers +3 in MetLife Stadium against the Jets. 74% of the bets on New York, 90% of the money. Why are the Chargers in primetime again? What have they done?
Yeah.
What have they done to go primetime? Same with the Jets. I mean, I get it. I mean, I know they make these schedules beforehand. It would have been Aaron Rodgers versus Justin Herbert. This could have been way better. But now at this point in the season, it's like, oh, God, what the hell are we doing?
If we're talking about primetime here, I think it's worth noting that for the Week 10 Sunday night game, they have an opportunity. Sunday Night Football, you can flex. They have the right to flex a game. They missed their deadline. We are going to have to watch Jets and Raiders on Sunday Night Football next weekend because NBC missed their deadline and didn't flex it. Yeah, it's awful. It's a joke. It's like Monday Night Football. Agreed. You can't fix that 'cause it's already on the schedule. But like some of these Sunday night ones, thank God we finally got a good one with the Bengals and the Bills. Now we have like this game on Monday night and then that game on Sunday night. We got to sit down and watch the Jets at nighttime 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
As well as the Raiders. The Raiders have so many primetime games. Why? For no reason.
I don't get that at all. My God. Game-wise, I mean, I never like backing road favorites, but the Jets, it feels like they beat these crazy teams like the Eagles and the Chiefs. Well, they played well against the Chiefs and the Bills. And they just can't play well against these other teams. And the Chargers have a phenomenal offense with healthier and healthier Justin Herbert. They looked great against a bad Bears defense. I think this is a good spot to back a road favorite, which is rare, honestly, in my opinion. And the public loves the Jets. I'm not sure why. The Chargers offense is far, far superior to this Jets offense. And yes, the Jets defense is better and the Chargers defense sucks. But at the end of the day, if this game ends up going to be a shootout, even though the total is set at 40, I would much rather have Justin Herbert than Zach Wilson.
I'm with you. I think that there's just for how mid the Jets are, there's so much hype around this team because of what they've been able to do the last couple of games, and they have a winning record without Aaron Rodgers. They have a winning record, right? It's 4-3.
Yeah, I think so.
It's like there's way too much hype around this team for what it actually is, and I don't understand how the spread is moving in favor of the Chargers, despite everyone betting the Jets too. there's been a lot of reverse line movement this week, which is interesting. I think that's something to monitor even closer on Sunday when there's a lot more bets to reflect on and see if the reverse line movement is true. But so far, we've named like 4 games now that there's been reverse line movement, and this is one of them on the spread. I don't mind the under. I don't mind it at all. It seems like a lot of people agree with me with 75% of the bets and 95% of the money. Total went from 43 to 40 now. And I think if I'm going to take a side, I lean Chargers. I'm with you. I don't really give a shit about the Jets' current form. The Chargers' offense is still, even though it's shown that it's not as good as we think it is still good though. Like I took the only bet that I won last week was Herbert over passing yards. So, like,
you're in the Chargers. You've got them down.
Yeah. I still trust this team offensively, and I think the Jets defense is being a little bit overblown because they haven't played anybody. And now they're actually getting a competent offense. So we'll see what Zach Wilson does. I've thought about putting him in a spot start in my dynasty team because I need a super flex quarterback right now, just because the Chargers defense is that bad. So we'll see if he can. But then again, I mean, I took the Bears against the Chargers last week, thinking that the Bears would be able to take advantage of them. They only got 10 points.
Yeah, I got to flex Will Levis in off my taxi squad this week.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, welcome to the big leagues, Will. Welcome. That's super exciting. You didn't need me to trade you Baker after all. You held out and you were rewarded.
Yes, exactly. Didn't need to give up this 2 seconds.
Yeah, the Jets have a better record than the Chargers. The Chargers, if they lose, will be 3-5. Do you fire Staley if you start 3-5?
Yes, you do. He's just as bad as Josh McDaniels, and this is a game that they need to win on the road if they want to stay anywhat relevant. Like, I love Herbert. I've bet him to win the MVP a couple of years ago, but he just has never had a defense that's willing enough, like that's good enough to keep them in games. And you know, he goes out, throws 1 pick in the first 8 games, and still gets rewarded with 3 wins. Like, it's insane. I don't know if he's only had 1 pick, but it feels like that. So I like the Chargers, but we'll see what happens come Sunday. This is another one that I'm going to wait because I'm surprised that so much money and public are back in the Jets here, but I get it as a home dog. I really do. So
yeah, I do as well, but at the same time, I don't see a world. And I know this is shitty analysis, but just me as a fan, I don't see a world where the Chargers start 3-5 and the Jets are 5-3 with no Aaron Rodgers. It just doesn't seem right. And I know that I backed the Bears off of logic that the Chargers defense is bad. I just feel like the Jets have around the same type of offensive weapons to give Zach Wilson as the Bears have to give Bajent, and they weren't able to do it. So maybe the Chargers defense is figuring out. Maybe they're just good against shitty teams. I'd rather back the side that's good against a shitty team. And if people keep betting Jets, maybe we'll get a gift here and the hook will go away. We get Chargers -3. That's when I would love to lock it in. I don't want to right now just because of the hook. And with everyone going one side, Vegas is either comfortable saying, yeah, we'll take the Chargers. They're going to win by more than 4 points or more.
Right.
Or the spread will move and we get a better line. And that's when you get rewarded for waiting. So we'll see what happens. But I lean Chargers pretty heavily.
Cool. Thank you guys for listening. This is our breakdown of week 9 in the NFL. It's been fun. Andy and I have been on the opposite side of a lot of these games, and it'll be fun. I'm a little bit nervous. I was good. I was excited for last week. It was bad with 16 games, and maybe now that I'm a bit nervous, I'll do a little bit better. But hopefully you can hit a bit of a recoil here too, Andy. So hopeful for a bunch of good stuff here at happyhoursports.net. But as always, you can check out our articles, as always, on happyhoursports.net for NFL. NBA is ramping up. We've got NHL ramping up as well. College football as always. And then, of course, the Prelim and Pilsners podcast. Or is it Pilsners and Prelims? Pilsners and Prelims podcast. I know. Again, I made the name and I still forget it. But that's how catchy it is. That's how you know it's good.
Yeah, we just got done recording for UFC Sao Paulo last night. You will see that. Well, that'll be out by the time this podcast comes out. So should be out here. Our folks that live on the West Coast will be able to see it tonight, but that doesn't matter because by the time that this releases on Friday, it'll already be out for everyone to listen. So definitely go check us out. We previewed every single fight on that card. besides the one that got nixed with Elvis Brenner, where he got a different opponent, as well as be sure to check us out for hockey content. I know DJ touched on it, but we've got 3 dedicated hockey writers now on the site, and they are super fired up about hockey being back. And they're writing some cool pieces. It's not just betting stuff. There's a lot of opinion stuff on there too, where I feel like if you guys go and read their stuff and want to chime in too, definitely find them on Twitter and where they post a lot of their content and join that conversation. So couldn't be more excited about what's going on, to your point, Deej, and couldn't be more excited to bounce back in week 9 either.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. I'm excited to get into it. So thank you guys for listening. As always, we are here on Sharpen the Public every Tuesday and Friday, recapping and previewing NFL weeks. Thank you for listening. We will catch you next time. And thank you for checking us out on YouTube. Keep getting us some support. We're getting a few subscribers here and there. So thank you to everyone on YouTube. We appreciate you. And hopefully we can keep on winning for you. So
cheers, guys. The boys bet better with beer.